Hi, everyone. We're talking about Jeff Hardy's earliest run. I met
Mm.
with Michael Hayes and did a lot of backyard wrestling. That's done. Let's talk about Dylan's gas issues for the next 59 minutes, 30 seconds. Go ahead, Dylan. Are you having stringy shits?
This is cold brew coffee. I have GERD now. I cannot do anything anymore. If I exercise, I vomit, but I still exercise, bro.
That's of
We
course.
rise, we grind.
Well, because everyone knows that you have to get in contact with your inner Scotsman.
Yeah, you have to fucking flush out that inner bitch, like Joe Rogan says. And you know what
That's
the
right.
inner bitch is? That's the person that says, get
Can I just
therapy. You haven't dealt with your father's death.
Did I tell you about what happened when I mentioned the name Joe Rogan on stage in a comedy show, and
Everyone nutted?
a guy
Oh,
literally just went. It was I literally just went like you'd hear on Joe Rogan, like I was using it as a reference, and a guy just stood up and
yeah.
went, "Joe Rogan's funnier than you cunt," and
That's
then he
good stuff.
walked out, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I was just like, "This is what's wrong with our fucking society right now." Is if you use a guy's name, everyone's just like, he's going after my guy. I have to say something. And it's just like,
Triggered.
shut up, you fucking loser. I'm done with everyone can fuck off. Everyone
Triggered.
doesn't do anything.
I was on a gig with a comedian. She's very funny, but she's very like online. And then at one point, she was talking about free speech, and I was like, "You know what I do is I listen to Banana Phone 5 times today, and I don't even have the excuse that my kid's old enough to ask for that. I just voluntarily was like, play it back, buddy. This Raffy guy's got something, and I like it." That's what you should do. Don't look at your phone. Don't talk about the left or the right. Just listen to some fucking Raffy. Don't smoke a joint because that is for the devil.
Disagree. Smoke a joint, become Raffy. That's what I do.
Raffy
By that I
divorced his
mean smoke a
wife, which
joint
is
and fall
crazy.
asleep in a log. That's what I mean. That's how I do. I am the Raffy. By the way, for those who don't know who Raffy is, so Canada in the 80s and 90s did an absolute bet. We will talk about Jeff Hardy, and we will
This is something about
slow.
Canada that you don't know is most of the children's shows in the world are made in Canada, and that was in the 80s and 90s, as John was, I think, starting to say, was the Canadian. No one would ever make a documentary about this because there's no
They
story
should.
to it.
There
But
is a
like
story to it. They were
Canadian
all.
children's music was
This
just
is the story.
huge in the 80s.
Guess where we thought we would find a pedophile in amongst these men and women. Guess
Mm.
what we didn't find? One pedophile. They're all
Exactly.
pedophiles. That's what they would say. No, no.
Yeah, that's the advantage that Canada has over everything, and why the Canadian children's entertainers are so successful is you can count them up. Zero pedophiles.
That's right.
Canada should have that in their tourist manuals. Like, all our children's entertainers just have kids, not for nothing else.
Yeah, they don't
We're
fuck
looking
them.
at you, Britain.
Yeah, we're looking at you, Britain. We're looking at you, America. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking at you, Portugal.
Portugal? Fuck it. The
Yeah,
Portuguese would never do that. They just
yeah.
straight up marry them when they're 14.
Senoro Biblioteca, that's Mr. Library, was one of the history's
Which is
greatest
also
monsters.
Spanish.
Yeah, that's right. He's a Spanish kids performer who performs in Portugal. Do you have a problem with that?
So my kid watches. Well, once again, I show them all these different names for animals, and like it just goes llama, llama, and then makes the sound of llama. Anyway, for two things I've learned: kangaroos make a noise like you're stabbing it.
Yes, they do.
Koalas
I've
make a
heard.
noise like they're a cigarette smoker, like coughing up
Well,
a lung.
because here's
Like,
the thing with
here's a koala.
Australia.
You're like, oh, koala. It's just a nice. It goes, Christ, I gotta fucking shit. That's also a
Here's the
koala.
thing, but here's the thing with Australia.
Oh,
You learn
Jesus Christ, I haven't been hard in years.
all those
Koala.
animals are designed to not have anything near them, so they look kind of cute, and then you
Ooh.
get close, and it's just like Jesus fucking Christ, my
Yeah, it's
fucking
just
hemorrhoids,
this far
man.
away, and then this up far.
I'm
But
shitting. I'm shitting.
koala is the only animal other than humans to have a divorce attorney.
Did you know that a wallaby, the noise they made is just the N word? They just point.
They point to.
Yeah.
Get out of my country.
Yeah.
That's a
You're lucky
wallaby.
I'm. Yeah. Oh, some wallabies also say, you're lucky I'm not a cop. They also say that. You're goddamn lucky they won't give me a gun or I'll tell you.
Some guy had a
One
really good
last thing,
joke
Dylan, before
yesterday
we
about
get to
how
Dylan.
Batman, you couldn't do Batman now because Batman is just a guy who dresses up and only does police brutality. That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
That's right. I
No,
mean,
but I'm wearing a hat.
it's a joke that everyone's done, but I've always maintained it, which is like Batman at Occupy Wall Street would be one of the saddest moments ever.
So funny.
Oh man, good, Batman's here. He's on our side. Is he?
Uh-oh. Yeah, the rich guy who learned how to fight good so he could just beat up the poors.
I totally get Batman's logic, by the way, because I've spoken to so many people with that similar logic. I don't know why, but my continual frustration, and it very much is isolated to stand-up comedians. Stand-up comedians of all industries do not know how to learn how to do something. What they do is they look at someone else who did something, and then they will just send emails to that person that are so stupid. They cause that person to have brain tumors.
Example, please.
I came back from Australia and I've received a variety of emails from comedians, particularly from the country Dylan lives in, saying things like, I want to do that. Can you tell me how to do that? And I respond. I just don't respond anymore because I'm just like, no, I've spoken to you once and I've never lived in the city you live in.
I mean, that's all over the world. Hey, I want to do that. Can you give me all the things?
Yeah, but here's the difference: is no one
tried?
emails the person. No one emails the person directly and is like, "How'd you do that?"
I like that email too. Not a DM, just
Not a DM.
Subject. Give me it.
Yeah. You went to my website. What is this? 2009?
Oh yeah, I've been it surprises me how many people use the. I've done a couple that you wouldn't call them articles or whatever, but like people have contacted
Blogs.
me to.
Dylan has now been interviewed for a lot of political blogs.
Yeah.
If you ever hear an expert on Susan Collins,
Polys.
That's Dylan.
Polyamorous people talking about politics.
Yeah. Dylan is he's the face of a new podcast. It's called Polys on Polys, and he's the moderator. It's two polyamorous couples. First half they talk about the deficit. Second half they talk about sex. I gotta tell you, I want to listen to that with you as the moderator, just trying to really keep it together. Go ahead, Dylan. Give us some of your moderator.
First of all, your lifestyle is disgusting. Could you explain to me why?
Yeah. Second of all, I will be eating warm coleslaw throughout this entire show. The reason why it's warm is so the audience doesn't hear the crunch.
Yeah.
But everyone in the studio can smell the smells.
Yeah, I want warm coleslaw so that this conversation is the second worst thing happening right now.
Exactly. I want to make sure that my soul and my stomach are churning in the same way. Because, and I mean to stress this, your horrific lifestyle.
Here's my thing about polyamorous people, John.
Go ahead.
Turn
I got
your
a
camera
line
off.
about
It's just
them, but
me now. No, I'm kidding. Don't turn your camera off, actually, because it fucks with the audio. Then it creates like 9 extra files. Anyway,
I'm not going to do it.
So John's camera's off. John is, I'm assuming, in a bathtub.
I am.
A nice glass of port, ready to hear.
Of course. It is
my
the morning
musings.
where I am, so of course I am drinking
This
port.
is 8 minutes and not one thing about Jeff Hardy. Here's a bad segue. Jeff Hardy kind of gives off a polyamorous vibe. Back to my weird comment. Polyamorous people, I never understood it because, like, John, you're the same way as me, but like even if stand-up didn't work out, we would have still done it. So we're like hobbyists. Like above all, we're hobbyists. Even like this podcast, we've monetized yet another one of our hobbies.
Yes.
And like we'll probably continue doing that throughout our lives. And that just, to me, polyamory above all else is like you don't have any hobbies. Your whole life is relationships then. Like your whole life is just like you just love couples vacations so much you never want it to end. It's like,
well, it's twofold. As someone who has dated,
have a shed? Don't you
I've
have
dated
something you're trying to build in the shed?
I've dated two polyamorous people, and here's the big takeaways from it. One, way too much scheduling for human beings. There's so much.
They love schedules.
They don't though. It becomes an oppressive albatross around their neck because they're just like, because what it is they're like, man, I want to get filled. I want to get this thing filled.
That's open relationship people is just like, I'm hot, fill me up, or I want to fill something up.
It's also polyamorous people. Like people like do act like it's like, well, it's not just about sex, and it's like there's a good portion of it that is about getting down and being clowns because they're down to clown. And but it's just so much scheduling, and it also takes all of the fun out of it, and also.
Do they want the first 3 months? Is that what it is? They just are obsessed with the first 3 months where it's like someone could take a shit in your bed and you'd be like, ooh, kooky and dangerous. You know what I mean?
Like that's what it's just really odd. Like it's just an odd lifestyle. Also, this is something I realized after going for a long walk in Australia. All polyamorous people look like if a wizard turned dogs into people.
Yeah. They all look like they think they were like, but if we both believed it, I could cast a spell.
Yeah, exactly. They both look like they were like, what I want you to know is I haven't really thought through the consequences of my decision. That's what I always get for it. Like, it's one of those things also where I have a joke about polyamorous people, which is polyamorous people are two people that were in love and then need to break up, but instead they see other people for a year and then they break up. And let me tell you who never finds that funny. Anyone who's polyamorous, and I can always see it, but I also can always tell. And I'm like, the reason why you don't like that joke is it's 100% true. 100% true.
Well, I guess to
Except
be
for
the devil's
the times it's
advocate,
not
look at my
true.
little horns, John. It's like an outsider lifestyle, and then you're already piling on. And there is a lot of people who like don't even take that action. They just should break up, and they're just like, oh, instead we're gonna stay because I'm too possessive to have anyone else fuck this person I don't even like anymore.
That's true. I will say this about polyamorous people. I one time had a fight with a.
Oh, John, this is amazing. So what happened there was John just left the stream somehow, and the last thing he said was, I had a fight with a girlfriend. So I assume that Joey Ryan Hastings had a fight with his girlfriend. That was perfect wrestler review timing. Continue about your fist fight with this woman.
So we got into a fight and we went to. She fell asleep, and then I just listened to her polyamorous roommate have a full orgy, a loud dope. Boom, 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 ha 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 ha. Like so many footsteps from the front door to the room, and then a cacophony of pleasure as I laid in a bed of anger.
I like the idea. If I was in an orgy, and I had a roommate, I would definitely be like, all right, I don't know how many people are here, but we're timing it so none of us come at the same time, but one of us is always coming, so they always have to hear a nut noise.
Just, they always have to hear.
My back.
I also found out that someone that I know, he's never made a noise during sex. He has extreme anxiety about it, and so he ends up being very lightheaded for a lot of it because he just holds his breath for fear of making noise. And I got to tell you,
never let the Al Pacino out.
That's all I do. You'll know I'm having sex because you'll just hear a lot of quotes from "Scent of a Woman" and Glengarry Glen Ross. A train car smells vaguely of shit.
These leads are terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough talking about Glengarry Glen Ross.
We've done 13 minutes of not talking about Jeff Hardy's early career. Let's talk about Jeff Nero Hardy. Let me tell you what happens when you learn about how Jeff Hardy gets into the business. You're just like, Matt Hardy is a genius, and everything that the brother Nero broken Matt Hardy thing was a reference to the beginning of his career. Will-O-the-Wisp was a character he did on the Indies. We're talking about the Indies in 1995, which I assume was just Wahoo McDaniel asleep in the middle of the ring, and the Hardy Boys just like, do we go in the ring? And they're like, do not, whatever you do not go in the ring. Have your match on the pavement in front of the ring. Do not wake up Wahoo. Do not fucking wake him up.
Yeah, a big part of breaking into wrestling in 1994 was making Greg the Hammer Valentine a steak sandwich.
That's true. A lot of it was also just asking Coco Beware when he was the Intercontinental Champion, and then just listening to an answer that made no sense. It was 75. I beat superstar Billy Graham on the moon.
But Jeff Hardy, and this is going to get real for a moment, so John, mute yourself.
Wait, how did you spell real?
R-E-A-L, baby.
Whoa.
Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, I see a lot of myself in them because we're both high flyers, but he lost a parent at an early age and clearly was like, fuck this, I'm just going to do what I love. And basically their dad was like, yeah, go do whatever you want. And they were in a trampoline wrestling organization with
the best.
This is crazy. Shane Helms.
Can you look at me in the face? It was the Trampoline Wrestling Federation, and I would like you to have some fucking respect.
But Shane Helms, this is
Matt
Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Steve Corino, Sugar Shane Helms, Joey Matthews. Like, that's pretty fucking, and that's like almost like that's like the founders of indie wrestling. And also, we should do a Steve Corino episode because he has an ROH angle that is amazing, where it's like he's in rehab for being a heel, which is like one of the best angles.
The more you tell me about early ROH, I'm like, man, that sounds
later. This is later ROH. This is full like Steve Carino has 5 tits. He has like
Is this
his
is this
tits
like
are tits,
is this
and his stomach is 2 tits as well somehow. Like he
Is this
looks disgusting.
Cornette era ROH, or is this Bullet Club era ROH, or in between?
I think this is like weird. This is a weird one where it's like Cornette and non-Cornette because it's Kevin Steen, and Kevin Steen like basically is like, I'm a mega heel, and Carino's like, I can't do this. I can't be a mega heel anymore. And he's like, Kevin Steen gets kicked out of ROH, and the whole thing is he's going to come back in, but Steve Carino is like, I will beat him because I'm not a heel, and heels are bad. And it's a real interesting angle. But anyway, Jeff Hardy, they have a trampoline wrestling organization, and because wrestling, if you want to know anything about how awful wrestling is, it's like the Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy's career worked out, but it so easily could have just been like, and then these 2 boys were killed, and it was
by
over.
Scott Hall when they were 15 in the ring. Like, the thing you have to understand
16
is
years old in the ring, facing Scott Hall, and they're like, I guess Scott Hall had a bad day, so he beat me up. That he's beating up a fucking child.
Yeah, no, it's not that he had a bad day. It's that you're a human child. You're 15. It is very possible that one of them
16.
had
That 6 is important.
They were still in double digits of amount of times they've jacked off. That's how young they were.
That's very funny. Yeah, for sure Jeff Hardy jacked off as soon as the match was over because he saw so many girls.
Exactly. Like, they literally were like,
I saw 9 bra straps. I've got to go fucking nut.
there was a girl wearing a spaghetti strap, and also I could see her belly button. Everyone don't go into the bathroom. It is a sea of bleachy mushroom soup. Also, this is I think my favorite Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy time, because they are young hot boy band boys, and they are
the
wearing
Young Bucks.
daisy trunks.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many tassels. And they are just doing flips. Like, this is the time where it's like literally Scott Hall does an Irish whip, and Jeff Hardy does 11 flips, hitting the ropes, walks back, takes a clothesline, is pinned. Like, it is so crazy how long it takes for them to ascend. And also this interesting thing of they get kind of trained by the last of the territorial big guys. They're trained by Dory Funk Jr. At one point with Kurt Angle and all these sort of people. Like, they are they're trained with all of these guys that go on to be sort of much like the Hardy Boys, sort of just part of the like fixtures of the wrestling industry. And it's also very interesting because their work rate and the way they work is that very, now we would call it an indie style, or let's be honest, in a couple of years it'll be the AEW style. But they are so locked in with the WWF, and we're so used as sort of the, and here's for something completely different style kind of guy.
Yeah, they were totally, what made them such great jobbers is that they basically learned to wrestle on a trampoline.
Yeah, and they learned how to wrestle on a trampoline. It's all they've done since they were 15. So they they're great at it. Hey, Dylan,
well, it's also like clearly like a single parent thing where their dad's like, yeah, I got to work all the time. Just go outside and do something.
Also, let's talk about the most important thing. You want to talk about how you're going to be a weirdo? Single dad. If you were raised by, I don't want to be rude to the men listening, but let's all be honest.
Very talented comedian, done very well for himself. Single dad.
Incredibly talented comedian, did very well for himself. That said, Darren Rose will have a beer with you anytime. You know what I'm saying? Like, Darren Rose is down to sit and have a beer at any time. Because guess who Darren Rose was raised by? He was raised by a dad, and in his head, he's like, that's as important as driving a kid to the hospital. You'll wait. You'll goddamn wait.
You need to relax.
Yeah, you need to. I need to relax before we go talk to a doctor. I need to.
As Darren Rose's own act says, the orange juice tastes like meat.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you got a bit of salami in there. Why? Because I was eating a sandwich and I drank it out of the fucking carton. Yeah, I got a job. I don't have time for cups.
What? Whose name is on the fucking deed? Is it you? Is it you, 7-year-old? A little bit too much of this.
That's dope, though. I want to buy a house just so I can have the deed on me at all times.
Oh my God!
Owner,
you understand
buddy.
how fucking awesome you will be when you own property, Dylan? You will have the deed on you at all times, and you will
this is my land.
Excuse me. I'm a land-owning Canadian, is what you'll always be referring to yourself. You'll show up to elections early. Excuse me. Where's the line for the landowners?
But Jeffrey Harvey, this is good. I don't even need research because this is so ingrained in my brain.
That's
Here's
right.
the thing. Here's the two things about them. First of all, you'd be remiss if you didn't say the early Hardy Boys just dressed it. And this is what took me a really long time to appreciate the Young Bucks, and I guarantee what took old guys in they look at the Young Bucks were just the early Hardy Boys, but not jobbers, and
Yeah.
like that's exactly how they dressed. They're way better than the Hardy Boys in the ring, way more smooth, way more athletic. But that's the way they were. Is like these are the jobber Hardy Boys, but they get to win.
But it's also, you see the influence of the Hardy Boys are basically, they're not inventing this style because it's Lucha Libre in Japan done in a North American ring with a North
Rock
American
and Roll
accent.
Express, Hardy Boys, Young Bucks, and if you didn't have the Hardy Boys in the middle, then the Young Bucks would have been appreciated way more because they really are just the.
Again, I totally
Roll
agree with you,
Express
but I
right
think
now.
you're not also taking into account that also the Young Bucks come across like assholes. The main problem with the Young Bucks is I look at their faces and I go, oh, in my head, 5 minutes into talking to Nick Jackson, this is what I'm thinking.
Really? I don't know, man. I just think
yes, I do. This is what I guarantee. I could give you the names of the comedians that they are very similar to, and you would be like, oh yeah. Like, do you know who the Young Bucks are? The Young Bucks are, I'm just saying this, it's in the private chat. They're that guy if he was successful. That's who they are. They're like a shitty, weird douchebag, but if they were very successful. You know what I mean? They're having an affair and using the ladies'
like
money
a late
to buy
era
ring
Chappelle.
jackets.
Maybe a late era Dave Chappelle type thing where it's like you guys are amazing, but you think you invented it. You know what I mean? Where it's like Dave Chappelle's still hilarious and great, but there's this weird thing about his personality where it's like you have to be a crazy ego person to do performing to begin with, but you need to dial it back a bit just so you're on this planet.
Yeah, you're right. Basically, Dave Chappelle started a cult, but he didn't get any followers. He's just like, everybody.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I also will
I
say
see what you're saying. They don't come off that way to me, but what was it? Hardy Boys also are very, very important because the Hardy Boys are the first that I know of WWE jobbers that use their same name in the same company and become actual stars, which is now a model for how everyone is. And I think it's a bad model, to be honest. I think that.
But do you want to know why it worked for the Hardy Boys and won't work for anyone else? As so many of these things are like this, in that it works for one person, so they're like, well, we'll do it again. And so you're not taking into account that person. The Hardy Boys were so young, and they were jobbers. This sounds really crazy, but I'm right. They were jobbers in a different era. They were jobbers in the Next Generation era and stars in the Attitude era, which means there was some changeover of the audience and there was a replenishment of the Hardy Boys.
And also you could tell the stories that they were children then.
This is the other thing. They were 15 years old and confused Chief J Strongbow or Blackjack Lanza or whatever weird smoker it was in charge of getting the job guys were clearly not checking ID because they're like, well, if I check ID for these guys, I'm going to have to check ID on my dates. And we're not doing that.
And that's the interesting thing, isn't it? And also, you'd be remiss if you didn't say, like, they're jobbing to guys like Crush in the 90s, and they get to, like, then face Crush in the DOA and win. So you're like,
exactly.
Well, they beat Crush. Like, oh, there is evolution.
They also beat Crush in the final match. They were the ones who gave him that hot dose.
Are you serious? Oh, John's out again. I like that. All right, so here was something that I didn't like. First of all, you can see my legs are wide open. Second of all, if you are a Patreon at a $10 tier, you can see my brother-in-law's Wish.com swords that he has right here. John, you're back. John, the Wi-Fi. John, by the way, if you have the Patreon feed, is dressed like a guy who was forced to go to a wedding. Good for him. John is out again. So what we're going to do is talk about more Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy, the greatest thing that happens is they are told, you're goths now. And Jeff Hardy, like every Southern goth, just went to Hot Topic. And then they stuck them with Michael P.S. Hayes. And Michael P.S. Hayes said, you know what? I also should dress like I'm in Hot Topic. Not at all. Like, oh, this guy's old and he hangs out with them, so maybe he dresses in all jean. He's a Freebird, baby. Let's fucking be the 80s Freebird. No. Michael P.S.A. says, fuck you. Fucking all jean, baby. Billy, he dresses like exactly Hot Topic, skin tight, along with the pants that my sister used to wear in grade 5.
Let me tell you,
pants.
Let me tell you why this was the best move Michael Hayes has ever made, the best move the Hardy Boys ever made. it brought Michael Hayes out one last time. Everyone was like, "Who's this fucking little bitch?" And it was like, I don't know. But you just knew it was countdown to them moving on. Like, you just knew they're like, I know what's going to happen. These guys are going to beat this guy up, and it's going to be real good. It's going to be real good then.
That is a very, very important thing that they tried. It's funny because they tried to do it. Did we do that episode? We did an episode on Paul Ellering. But Paul Ellering was just recently a manager for, I forget the team, two big boys who punch. And they tried to cut Paul Ellering out. The Authors of Pain. I remember because they, in the worst writing I've ever heard, the Authors of Pain, someone in the writing thing was decided, well, why don't they do poems because they are authors? And then they got released very soon afterwards.
Yeah, well, again, but the problem also is, and why the WWA's need to eliminate managers, and then they finally had to bring them back because they're like, well, the only person that can talk in this company is Paul Heyman, so he manages everyone.
But it's not even that. Like, it's like Paul Heyman, and then they're like, oh, okay. But Paul Heyman, by calling himself an advocate on television, I guarantee there's this weird thing in Vince McMahon's head where it's like, oh, he's not a manager, he's an advocate.
He's also
every other guy was like, I'm an advocate, because they just fired Malcolm Bivens, Stokely Hathaway, who is like a great manager, but they just for some reason anyway, whatever.
Part of what my theory is that Vince compares everyone to Bobby the Brain Heenan, because Vince is that guy who's like, you have to be bigger than Hogan. You have to sell more than Steve Austin. It's like you have to be a better manager than Bobby the Brain Heenan. And no one's going to be a better manager than the guy who invented it and made so much money for Vince McMahon. So instead, it's just no one does. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You're kind of like, this guy's not Michael Jordan, so I don't even want a basketball player.
That's exactly it. And it's like, well, no, but Scottie Pippen's still fine. Like, I mean, I don't think his personal life reflects very well on anyone. And my God in heaven, did he wear a very open tennis style polo in The Last Dance.
And someone fucked his fucking wife, which is not okay.
Wait, what? When did that happen?
That was like some rapper had sex with his wife, which I still think is like, wow, your wife's still hot enough to have sex with a current rapper?
I think about this all of the time. Jerry Falwell Jr.'s wife got caught like having sex with this like young cool guy, and then they were like, to like, what it actually was is they were in a throuple. And to distract from, they're like, actually, he was just having an affair with my wife. And everyone, like, as I was reading, I was like, man, your wife's cool.
And Falwell fucks that guy too. That's sick. Or gets fucked by him. Maybe the guy's just fucking everybody. Good for him.
He wants to get sucked. He wants to be sucked.
He wants the original pegging, gay sex.
That's right. He wants the original
classic pegging, as I call it.
Of course. Yeah, Dylan. What's weird is whenever Dylan is engaging in classic pegging, which it's been some time, he's raising a family, but every once in a while Dylan walks into the wooded area, what I like to call has his personal time. That's where because guess what? I know what you're thinking. You're looking at Dylan going, that's a man who likes a prescriptive style relationship most of the time, but one day a year he walks into the woods, and then Dylan is what he likes to call a man at the buffet of flesh.
Yeah. Whoever finds the cookie gets to open the jar. And
that's exactly correct. Yeah, Dylan is the jar. Fill his gaping holes. You
know
who
what we're gonna do is talk
who else
about...
had gaping holes?
No.
Dylan? Do you know who else did?
Who?
Jeff Hardy in the early part of his run, because while it was a very well-structured, slow rise, there were a couple of problems. Mainly, the amount of spots he was being forced to engage in that were death-defying by Michael Hayes led to Sean Waltman taking Michael Hayes' ponytail during the plane ride from hell. And also supposedly punching Michael Hayes a bunch of times when he was passed out on the plane ride from hell, which really makes me laugh a lot at Sean Waltman thinking he's a tough guy. I'm going to go stand up to that passed out man. I'm going to punch him. Like, what? No, just, he's 20 years older than you. Just wait until he's awake. Everything we know about Michael Hayes is that his favorite drink is Jägermeister. Let him have one, and then you can fight him.
I mean, to be fair, he was probably snoring but saying the N-word at the same time somehow. and like, it's Michael P.S. Hayes for sure. It's like, I want to punch this guy, and I just want to.
The P.S. by the way stands for purely segregation.
All right, we're gonna take a little break, and we're gonna come back with the Hardy Boys and the stuff that most people forgot about, but definitely happened.
Like, here's something that I did not remember. I remember watching every episode while it happened. They were managed by Terry Reynolds.
They won the tit.
Yep, the Terry Invitational Tournament. I hate Vince Russo. Dylan, let's take a break. Break me. And we're back, Dylan. We're talking about Jeff Hardy. Are they still wearing daisies on their trunks? No, they got big, big trouser legs. You could hide
They
Avril
love
Lavigne
Marilyn
under there.
Manson.
You can
After
hide
Columbine, they
Marilyn
came out
Manson's
and they had a huge
accusations under
party.
there. You can hide all of the regulations Clinton's removing from the banking system in the United States.
Yep.
You can hide all of those weird questions we always have about Steve Austin, but then he comes back and wrestles Kevin Owens, and we're like, nah, he's good though. We can. What else can we hide in there? We can hide the fact that Michael Hayes is definitely wearing a girdle, where he's wearing that tight shirt.
Oh,
He's wearing a
yeah.
girdle.
It's the kind of the thing where if you are a bigger dude then or a bigger person, full stop, wear black and wear it tight, and that'll slim you down until you turn to the side. And the unfortunate thing is they filmed him from the side quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, because there is no way Michael Hayes was respectful to those cameramen. Like, there was no way he wasn't like, you guys ever seen a guy shit in a bucket? And they're like, no. And he's like, you're going to now get me a bucket. And he's like, no, Michael, no. It's the whiskey talking.
I just did the math, and I'm far higher up on the food chain than you, which means you have to watch me take a shit while you work up a boner. Here's a bunch of Viagra. It helps me think.
Yeah. Hey, I was just doing some math. If you had a daughter today in 18 years, I could fuck her. You know.
Yeah, if in 18 years I could fuck it. That's why when I nut, I fuck my own nut.
I want to point this out before we keep talking about Jeff Hardy. This just dawned on me. Here was Triple H's great sin that caused him to be poisoned, so he had a heart attack and then kicked out of the company. He tried to do something that was different and that could be successful, and then was not as successful as Vince wanted it to be. That was his punishment. Michael Hayes got so drunk at Stephanie McMahon's wedding, he sang a full song and gave a speech he was not scheduled to give. They promoted him. He was on that pill for 2 years that if you drank any alcohol, you just threw up, and he was still just drinking and throwing up all the time. And they were like, yeah, but that guy knows how to tell people how to give a promo.
But Vince understands that. Vince doesn't understand a guy who's completely clean. Like, Vince McMahon, for sure, it's like he thought he was just like had another kind of like dude underneath him with Triple H, but he didn't know it. But it's like, oh, this is like the classic wrestler promoter.
Yeah, he had Jim Crockett the Barbarian as his number 2. By the way, that's the best nickname for Triple H that's ever been invented. Everyone use it. Jim Crockett.
But it's true. Like, Triple H, like, it's crazy how everything around this dude has changed. I don't know. We should do a Triple H episode, obviously, because his in-ring career is...
Have we not?
I don't think it's over at all because of medical
It's
science.
definitely over. He's got a pacemaker.
I don't think so.
It absolutely is. It's the thing of it. What it is it's that he can't take a bump and risk something happening to that device. You know what I'm saying? Like, his heart is now run by a computer. Like, a doctor would be like, you can get in the ring, but like, no, like, don't do it.
I guess.
No, Triple H, I still think that there's a 40% chance he ends up in AEW. Well, again,
That'd be dope.
It would be. It's all that needs to happen is
I think the biggest chance is if someone, like, they're talking about the next rights deal, that someone would have to have like a Godfather offer for the WWE. But if someone did come with a Godfather offer, then they'd look at the business like Disney did when they bought Marvel and be like, okay, this is for nerds. Let's make it hyper for nerds. Who's the biggest nerd we have accessible?
Triple H. Yeah, Triple H is the Kevin Feige.
Runs this now, and then it's like Vince McMahon no longer talks to his daughter. Or she divorces Triple H and marries Vince out of
No, she doesn't. She would have to stop Vince from killing her and then him putting on a wig. I'm Stephanie. I have a vagina that bleeds, and I have daughters, I think.
So anyway, so we got school shooter Hardy Boys. And
that's right.
The
Columbine kids, Jeff and Matt Hardy, they are showing up with wet hair. They've got wet hair.
They only wrestle on 420, and
that's right.
It is not because of Rob Van Dam. Let's just say that.
No.
But the weird thing that I realized only through reliving Jeff Hardy's beautiful career is how Matt Hardy is smarter than Jeff, you would say, in a lot of ways, but in one specific way not, in that Matt Hardy's move, the top rope leg drop, is so much worse for your body than the Swanton and looks so much worse. Like,
this is the thing that
this like 80s finisher, and the leg drop fucked Hulk Hogan's body, and all he did was like put one foot up and then let his body free fall. And Matt Hardy's like, oh, I'm gonna do a leg drop off of the top rope to the concrete every
I
match.
do feel like all of those moves that turned out to be really bad for your back, i.e. the atomic drop and the leg drop, are so more insidious because you look at them and you're like, there's no way that's hurting anyone.
And that's the thing about the stunner I can't believe is that, like, he still does the stunner Stone Cold does. Like, that's not a move you can... I know that sounds silly. Like, no one will be wrestling at 70, but, like, these guys will wrestle at 70, and then you're fucking...
But here's actually a thing I will actually say the distinction is with the stunner is that wasn't his move his whole career. He got that move relatively late. Like, he got... If you think about it, he only started doing the stunner in 97.
Mhm.
So that saved him a full 10 years of his career. And so 97, and then by what? He's retired by 2003. So Hogan was doing the leg drop 85, let's say 85 to 2000. That's 15 years. Steve Austin was doing the stunner half that amount of time. They also were not doing the amount in the 80s. Remember, Hogan was doing 3 shots a night. So he's doing 3 leg drops a night, 350 days a year. That's so
On
many more leg
planes.
drops. Pardon me?
He's on planes, too. Like, he's traveling constantly, which is super hard on your body.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's brutal. Steve Austin's career was much shorter. It's also medical treatment for the spine in the 80s was like, I don't know, maybe don't be a little bitch. And then it's also Steve Austin had that neck injury. There's a bunch of factors to it. The main thing that always blows my mind is that Matt Hardy, yes, because of that leg drop, has the hips of a dead man, but the
Jeff Hardy
booking mind of a
looks like
genius.
okay.
But Jeff Hardy is, of all of the wrestlers, the luckiest wrestler of all because all of his weaknesses are held by his brother. Matt Hardy would be exactly where Matt Hardy is right now if there was no Jeff Hardy. He would have figured out a way because he's too good at creating his own characters that just stick with you. I hated Matt Hardy version 1 when it was out, but now I'm like, that's pretty fun, actually. The little
I thought that was great. He has a way more... what would you say about Matt Hardy? Matt Hardy's like a character actor, and Jeff Hardy's a star. Where it's like it's kind of like the De Niro thing. For as great as De Niro is, he can only be De Niro, and Matt Hardy is. For I'm not on this level, but like Philip Seymour Hoffman, he can do anything.
Exactly. What did it like? I don't love the Hardy family office,
but he could do it. He was good.
Yeah, it was fine.
I have a lot of money. I'm evil, and it's like if you imagine if Jeff Hardy was like, I have a lot of money. I'm evil. He'd be like,
I got some money. Here's my emo song. Hit it. Listen to the words.
I mean, it would be dope if a guy... That's the ultimate heel move. I have a lot of money. You have to listen to emo.
Oh, my God. Why aren't we in a book? If we got onto the AEW booking committee, do you understand how good the characters would get reactions week 1 and how angry Jim Cornette would be at us?
Yeah, buddy. Once again, wrestling, even the cool guys are way off. Just here's... And this would have been 3 years ago, this guy would have been great, but just like, what's my character? You love to vape. That's the whole thing. You love
my
vape.
God.
You vape all the time. Everyone
Do you understand
vape.
that guy would have gotten the 3rd or 4th match
is.
at WrestleMania? Vince McMahon would have been like, you're going to be the champion. And you'd then have to be like, you're the vape guy. You are not going to be the champion. You are the vape guy.
You stop vaping and everyone takes you seriously.
Yeah, you stop vaping and everyone starts booing you. You are
Big Hall on a vape, Big Hall, and then, fucking The Undertaker, whoever chokeslams you, and then all the smoke comes out during the chokeslam. Like, everyone, that would be GIF to a million. Anyway, I'm naked. I'm covered in peanut butter if you don't have the fucking stream. And it's hard to get off.
I'm clothed, but my clothing is made of jam. After the show, Dylan and I are going to hug.
Mm-hmm. So this is the classic thing about wrestling is that you remember the TLC matches and those tables matches that the Hardys have with the Dudleys and Edge and Christian, which are perfectly cast. Edge and Christian are 2 MJFs. The Hardy Boys are straight ahead baby faces that are very much of a time, and the Dudley Boys are, hey, you're older and watching this. These two uncles are going to kick the shit out of these children.
I think it's time for a patented wrestler review. What kind of dads are in the TLC match? Well, you got the Dudley Boys. I'll tell you who they are. They're your classic stepdads right there. They're angry, they're out of shape, yet somehow very strong, and you're making a lot of noise, and we don't care for it. Now you got the Hardy Boys. They're the young dads. You know what I mean? They're trying to be hippie. They're trying to be cool. I'll show you a flip. I still got my hips. And then we've got Edge and Christian. Guess what the kind of dads they are? They insisted on the abortion, and they're happy about it.
But this is
for the purposes of flash photography, I will not be wearing a condom, and it is your responsibility.
And it sounds weird, but it's like, of these 6 guys, Jeff Hardy is the one that makes these matches remarkable because
you're 100%
Jeff
correct.
Hardy and Rob Van Dam in this era are, and I think, I mean, maybe I'm biased because we grew up then, but I'll think about this more often. But two guys that jump immediately to mind of like high spots that also look spectacular. I know that sounds weird, but like the edge, the spear to Jeff Hardy, the person that makes that spectacular is Jeff Hardy, clearly, and Matt Hardy doing like leg drops off of like 30-foot ladders, and you're like, yeah, I guess I guess that's fine. That's like a cracker with nothing on it for some reason. But then Jeff Hardy does the swanton from 3 feet high, and you're like, he could be dead.
So what it is this. The reason why Jeff Hardy and Rob Van Dam stick in your head is that it was the first time someone was doing ECW moves that looked like they were done in WWE style. Like that's why Rob Van Dam is so sticks out of your head in like ECW, because ECW was like, well, how do we fake jumping off a balcony and landing on a table? You don't fake it. We might kill that guy. Oh. And
well, the
Rob
thing that Van Dam has that none of the new guys have, except for Sammy Guevara, kinda, is that he'll do something sick and stop and be like, wasn't that sick? Versus the Young Bucks who just do 900 sick things in a row, and then both of them are on the canvas and everyone applauds.
This is so douchey, but I completely agree with it. It's a difference in storytelling acumen and a goal for what you're presenting. Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy are. This is so wanky, but I think I'm correct. I'm onto something.
Wank.
Is they're presenting full matches. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they're actually presenting the idea of the bell rings and you're going to get the whole story of this fight. How the Young Bucks always structure matches is it's a 3-act play. They attack us, we attack them. The finish, spot. That guy with the stupid face mask, who is our friend, walks in and goes like, end of match. The Jeff Hardy and Rob Van Dam will always be more interesting because you know they're going to do something, but it's not predictive of when it's going to happen and what it's going to be. You just know it's going to be in the genre of a high spot. Comparing them with the next generation of that style of wrestler, which in this case I think would be the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks just basically do what Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy would do like one time throughout a match. They do 8 times at the end of a match every time. And it's just kind of like, yeah, we get it. I also just think the Young Bucks kind of look like shitheads and I can't get over it. And I know that everyone's like, but they're fine. I just,
Well, we didn't watch them come up. Like, how clean and how good those guys are at wrestling truly is amazing. Like, if you watch, like, I don't think these guys do fucking insane shit and I've never seen them fuck up, but it's like they just do not have that X factor that a guy like Jeff Hardy or Rob Van Dam
it's also
has.
They don't have the X factor that a guy like Hangman Adam Page does, which is, I don't really know anything about Adam Page. I know that I like his finisher, and I'm watching him walk to the ring. It's fun. I've never been like, oh, good, here come the Young Bucks. They're fun. I'm always just like, enough of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're good, but anyway, whatever. This is far too much about the Young Bucks.
It's actually important because this distinction is that they are so the parallel style of performer that you do need. You always do need someone like a Jeff Hardy, and the Young Bucks are very much that Jeff Hardy style, big, high spot, flashy match that you're always going to get at big events, i.e. your pay-per-view. It's something Kevin Sullivan talks about, which is, think of wrestling like the circus. You need the strongmen, you need the lions, you need the elephants, you need the acrobats, you need the clowns. He's like, you need a little bit of all of these things to keep people engaged because you are wrestling is a mainstream thing that appeals to nerds, and nerds love a thing within a thing within a thing. I'm the goth nerd, so they have Malachi Black. I'm the loser dudes who like to see people almost die, John and Dylan. The Hardy Boys and the Young Bucks are for us. It's just that the way the Young Bucks the way the Hardy Boys, particularly Jeff Hardy, portrays himself and does all these moves, especially here in this first run, just stick in your brain way more. And you know, the Young Bucks also know this, which is why they have that focus on things like for a long time as they were coming up on super kick parties, because it was another way to do a big high spot that was unique. They just don't exactly. The problem is they just don't have that stack quality that Jeff Hardy has. And
the Young Bucks are the same guy twice, too.
Fuck off. Go ahead, what?
The Young Bucks are the same guy twice, and the Hardy Boys weren't.
That's true.
Like, the Hardy Boys, if you combine Matt and Jeff, you get Shawn Michaels, but then you break them apart, and they're the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, if you combine the Young Bucks, you just get Matt Jackson again. You know, you're 100% correct.
Yeah, they're the same guy twice, which is dope. Like, they're still, it's still great. And they're better than the Hardys in the ring, but it's like they're worse than the Hardys overall because, it's just there's not as much variability, and it's the same guy twice. Anyway,
it's in the same way that the Midnight Express is not as good as the Rock and Roll Express, but it's still awesome.
but then you find after the Terry Invitational, which is so funny because Terry Reynolds, like,
this is the most Attitude Era idea ever, which is she's got some money, but more importantly, it's a reason for her to be on TV every week where she might show her boobs. Guys,
but
we may see tits. That's
but it's also like that's just, hey, she's got people think she's hot. Let's stick her with these guys to give them a thing. And it's classic wrestling where it's like there's no thought put into the character whatsoever. Where it's like, no, but like, yeah, I understand that like you want to keep her on TV because she's attractive and people will watch television then. But also like it comes off like the mom who lets her kids drink. Like that's the relationship kind of there. But then, of course, we get Lita with the Hardy Boys, which is perfect. Like,
this is
absolutely perfect. You do not need a manager who can talk for these guys. Just have Edge and Christian talk, and then the Dudleys talk. They're both great. And then let these guys fucking almost die.
Yeah. And this leads to the SummerSlam TLC, which was the best one, where they all get to introduce they all have a third, which is Lita, Spike
really
Dudley, and Rhino. And it's
the best introduction of fucking Rhino, too. I remember watching this where it's like the ECW invasion actually fucked Rhino up so bad. Like, if they just didn't do that invasion, it would be like Edge and Christian, and they have this fucking heater monster who's going to beat the fucking shit out of everybody. Like, it was such a good intro.
What they had was looks more muscular Earthquake. They had Limp Bizkit John Tenta in Rhino, and they just fucked it.
Yeah, I mean, for that time, it's so funny looking back on it when you look at Rhino now, but it was like, first of all, his name's perfect. Second of all, everyone was like, oh, he's short. But it's like, it's crazy looking back and saying he's short, or looking back and being like Samoa Joe. I don't know, he's kind of short too. And it's like, yeah, I guess like everyone's just 5'9" now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's also like the only reason why that's a criticism is because one guy doesn't like short guys. Like, I got news for you. Ric Flair ain't 6'4". There's no fucking way Ric Ric Flair purports to be 6'4". I'm 6'4". There's no way that fucking drunk is 6'4".
No, it says he's 6'1" on his thing.
Oh, okay.
He's not 6'4". There's definitely guys who are lying about being 6'4", but anyway. So the Hardys
Undertaker
and Edge,
is, I think, my favorite one. He's
the
6'9".
Hardys,
Is he?
The Hardys and Lita are an amazing team. Of course, they get super over immediately, and Lita adds something, which is what Jeff Hardy says basically is for the
Jim
dudes.
Ross loving Lita, by the way, because this is where she's showing
buddy.
song. Yeah, there we see that song.
This
is another thing we need to talk about. In the late 90s, as porn was coming in, for some reason, there was a memo sent out, which is, hey guys, girls are just going to show you their thong sometimes. And for some reason, that's cool. And what it has done is ruined the thong underwear for me, because it's so much of my life was just like, there were so many times I remember like walking down the corridor of my high school, and there were just so many whale tails on display, and it was just like
T-bar too. You call them that?
T-bar, of course. And you're just like,
this was actually, and then this and lower back tattoos, the pornification.
Oh my
the
God,
youth.
yes, of course, the lower back tattoo. Bear in mind, this was before they literally called them a tramp stamp. Bear in mind, I know a bunch of dudes that got them, and then they were like, yeah, Dylan has one. Yeah, I know like 8 guys that have one. Dylan's is the best one. It says delicious.
It says delicious on my lower back. You know 8 guys that have them?
I think I know 8 guys. I definitely know 2, and then I'm going through the rest of them.
Mine, I have delicious, and then Batista's exact back tattoo. But I'm not in shape, so I doesn't.
So it's much
just
bigger.
Looks like a bunch of mud on my back.
Yeah.
But this is the important thing is Lita makes the whole Hardy Boys thing complete because it's something for the dudes, and also Jeff Hardy, not so much Matt Hardy, but definitely Jeff Hardy, is one of the last. I'd say John Cena. Him and John Cena are the last 2 that I can think of that women in the audience really liked. Like women, and this is something Jim Cornette will talk about all the time. This is people. You used to book wrestling because it was like also kind of a male strip club.
Yeah,
because they're like,
it was,
here's this hot guy who's gonna. Also, these hot guys have their shirts off, so that's fucking sick. Let's see
So
some
I was thinking
fucking
about
six
this.
packs.
So one of the things that came in the 80s as the NWA started to drop was Chippendale started going on tour. And I guarantee that affected the NWA because of exactly what you're saying. It was a bunch of ladies being like, I want to go see some ripped guys be fucking hot. And
then they can see it in the way they like, rather than also now I have to see him bleed too for some reason.
Yeah, I have to see a hot guy stood next to Abdullah the Butcher. Fuck this. You know what? Yeah, you're 100% correct. And again, what I want to come back to Jeff Hardy's first.
It also hurt wrestling in the 90s that you could just download porn.
Yeah, because I got news for you. I know you're all thinking, if you look at the Attitude Era, you're like, if you watch the Raws from the Attitude Era, there are so many times where it's like, there's a lady's going to come out and talk into a microphone for 15 minutes. And you're like, how was this the most watched thing on television in North America? And it's like, we didn't have porn. And we were led to believe at any time that girl could kiss another girl. We were not missing it. We were not missing that.
Well, that's like in 2006, and that was the main thing about the women's division. Sorry to cut you off. In 2006 onwards, until they actually made it a wrestling division, till like fucking like 2014, was everyone was like, and this was a misogynist thing to say, but it's absolutely true, which was, we can just download porn. I don't need to see, these models who haven't been trained well how to wrestle.
Yeah, and I love that it took the WWE so long to course correct. They're like, wait.
So long. Exactly. So Jeff Hardy, of course, breaks off from Matt Hardy, and we get, I think, the first one of, this is 2002, so I was going to say it's one of the first, but definitely one of the major, like, Undertaker beats Jeff Hardy, and then Jeff Hardy shakes his hand, and they sell it as this big, Jeff Hardy's really arrived. But it's the classic thing where, A, he needed to put up a bigger fight, B, no one fucking gave a shit about the Undertaker. This is like late American Badass time. You could have just had Jeff Hardy win super easily and done great things with him, but they are vindicated because Jeff Hardy has crazy substance abuse problems and, of course, is out of the company shortly after. But he also does some great work with Rob Van Dam, getting Rob Van Dam hella over.
Yes, he does. And then this is where he heads off to his, I got confused in the chronology of the first run and the second run. This first run ends and his first one
ends in 2003. And because they turn him heel. And once again, as we've said before on this journey, oddly, and this is not, I should not be saying this, but oddly, as far as booking wise, unfortunately, his substance abuse works in his favor because rather than just becoming someone that's like, oh, Jeff Hardy's on TV, they basically make him leave for 3 years, and then he comes back and has what you would say is his best run, but it's also his shortest in WWE. Like,
we were gonna do two. We were gonna do that as one episode, and then we realized no, we will be doing 2 episodes on this period. So we will do Jeff Hardy's second run when, Dylan?
Eventually.
Good. What is your high point of Jeff Hardy's run currently? Here's my high point. He essentially
his first one.
Yeah,
his first run. The high point is clearly him and Matt and Lita.
Yeah, I was gonna say the TLC matches because basically they do not win, and basically the only offense the Hardy Boys really get is Jeff Hardy doing something insane. But it literally is what sticks. Like, no one remembers Edge and Christian winning the first one, or I believe the second one. Like, I do not think no one remembers who wins those matches. Everyone just remembers Jeff Hardy attempted to commit suicide and instead scored a sweet bump.
Yeah, and it's like how wrestling is done as a performance now. It was done by them perfectly then because you got the idea that like Jeff Hardy wanted to try and kill these guys so much, but they're smaller than everybody, so they have to use their body and do these fucking crazy things. It's not like, why is these two wrestlers are both small, why are they both doing high-flying stuff? Because that's how they wrestle. There was like a psychology that made sense, just like with Rey Mysterio, where it's like Rey Mysterio has to do all this high-risk shit because he's fighting, Batista, who's like legit 2 to 3 times his size. Like, he needs to do all this shit because he has no options. if he just goes hand to hand, he's gonna get the fucking shit kicked out of him.
No.
And also the spectacular way, and it's like these things. I always say this about the Vince Carter dunk contest, which is a weird way to say this, but
Go
like
ahead.
the
Go
fact
the
that
fuck
Vince
ahead,
Carter, when he
bro.
dunked it, it always made a huge noise and it perfectly went through the net. And that dunk contest is as important as when Jeff Hardy falls through a table. The table always perfectly splits into a million pieces. And he definitely did that. He always, everything was spectacular. He was the first guy who ever did a swanton off a ladder onto another ladder. And he always was like written out of the matches like Jeff Hardy's fucking dead. And he did it every single match. And the other important thing is he had the Sabu credo, which was if they paid, I'll do whatever I want. Because I remember when I was first listening to like Smart Mark Radio, live audio wrestling at the time, they would talk about how Jeff Hardy would be like, it'd be like a house show in the middle of nowhere and everyone's going half speed and Jeff Hardy does like a swanton just and lands on concrete because they didn't have tables there.
Yeah. Because he was like, I got an
And
extra
got
$80,
addicted.
right? Hang on.
Yeah.
We're going to Arby's after this, and I can pick whatever I want. Can I get appies and dessert? And they were
Yeah,
like,
he always
"You
gave
can't get
100%.
appies and desserts."
But
Yeah.
men, this is the weird thing, and we'll get into this in the second
Oh,
round.
here
but, like,
we
men
go.
hated him.
Dylan's there. Oh, I'm surprised Dylan wasn't about to go into his whole manosphere rant when he just went.
Mhm.
And men are superiors. Usually, how those conversations go with Dylan. Usually, it's
Because
like,
he wasn't like, but when dudes started to hate him, he didn't have the promo skills to then use that to become a heel. He's just like,
That's
this
so
like
funny.
goth female baby face. It's weird because like I said, the way he got like pushed out and the way he jobbed so much and was okay with being a jobber because he didn't need to win that much really, really did work for him. Because if they would have like actually pushed him, there would have been pushback and people would have hated him. And I think that's why he didn't make it that far.
here's also a thing
Not
with
that
Jeff
far, but
Hardy
you know what I'm saying.
that I think about. I think part of the reason he's so popular, he's one of the few professional athletes that I think everyone who watches him goes, I could beat the shit out of this guy.
Yeah, he does. He has a way of selling that's not like the Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels. Like he does these specific bumps every single time, but he definitely has a signature way of selling and like is a great fucking babyface. The weird thing about Jeff Hardy is
Jeff Hardy, you know how Jeff Hardy, this just hit me. Jeff Hardy sells like he's a kid. Like he's like,
Yeah.
Like it's so
He's
exaggerated.
dead. He's
Yeah,
fucking dead every
My
single
knee is scraped.
time. He was amazing in the 90s and in the 2000s, clearly, but there's something that would have been amazing about him in the 80s. Like he's like a better
Oh my
version of
God.
the Rock and Roll Express.
I want you to know this right now. If you let his substance abuse in the 2000s bad, that guy in the 80s, he would have just been in Dan Spivey's asshole. Like he would have just been like, yeah. Jeff Hardy is like Jeff Hardy tried to open a territory in Peru, and now he's dead. He wrestled cocaine and he lost. He got pinned in 30 seconds.
I think Jeff Hardy, the worst thing about him is clearly his promos. They always had to stick them with the manager, but like Vince never seemingly realized that Matt Hardy was just functionally the manager.
The worst part about
Matt Hardy was just like, I'm wearing
the
the shirt because my brother likes it, and I would rather be in a sport coat. I'll let you know that.
The worst part about this was the weird unnecessary hulking up they made Jeff Hardy do before some swantons where he just took his shirt off, but he didn't have the physique.
Oh
where you're
yeah.
like, ooh, you're just like, oh, I guess someone skipped the tanning bed.
Well, that's the thing that people fucking hate. That's the thing that dudes hated is like he's not even fucking jacked. But like the difference between Jeff Hardy and Billy Gunn is Jeff Hardy looks like a real guy that women would actually have sex with, not a guy who's like, when I'm cycling off steroids, I do more steroids.
Here's the difference. Billy Gunn always has a girlfriend, and she always has a nice house. Jeff Hardy, you go on 3 dates with him, and then some sort of weird oral sex takes place behind a dumpster.
Yeah, there's always garbage involved.
Yeah, he ate my ass near a Dairy Queen, is what you say.
It's going to sound weird, but can I just have old McDonald's wrappers near me while we have sex? It makes
Yeah,
me feel
this
safe.
is going to sound pretty bizarre, but I only can get hard if I'm near a fryer.
I wrote a song about you. It was written a year ago, but I knew I was going to meet you. Anyways, just generically about banging. We're about to bang.
Yeah. I hope you're okay with me walking towards the bed singing it.
All right. This stops now. Next week, we're going to do low key. I want to do low key because
Oh, yeah, let's do low.
perfectly know why he's not allowed in wrestling, even though he's dope.
I don't
but
know
we're
why
gonna
he's
learn.
not allowed in wrestling. All I know is I don't know. He is of all the wrestlers, and I'm including Grizzly Smith,
Mhm.
Buck Zuma, like some of the big monsters. You can find someone to be like, I guarantee you Greg Valentine likes Buck Zumov. No one likes Loki. Like no one.
That's the crazy thing about Loki is like when they did the original NXT, which was like, oh, these guys all have trainers, even though, you know, the Miz was with Daniel Bryan, even though the Miz is way less experienced than Daniel Bryan. The only guy that got over was Loki as Senshi, and even though they gave him that stupid fucking name, and then the reason he got kicked out of WWE was just like, I understand, like from what I remember, he just was a dick, and no indie guy was like, this is bullshit. They were like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like,
it's exactly that. It was.
They're like, if one of us is going to sneak through and actually make a run at making a lot of money in this, we can't stick up for this guy because he probably just was like,
Here's what I guarantee
he like
it is,
chewed something
and
in
it's
catering
correct.
and was like, undercooked losers.
It's okay. So this is literally happening. There is a comedian who's
No, there
got
isn't.
pretty famous, who's very bad, and people are starting to realize, like industry are starting to realize it, and it's starting to be like, hey, this person's terrible, right? And everyone's like, those are your words and not my words, because I would never speak bad about a colleague. But I have to say, I agree with you. And it's exactly what happened to Loki. Is I guarantee Loki was like, he's shitting with a door open, makes eye contact with the Undertaker and goes, that's you. And then everyone's like, get this guy out of here.
Yeah, man. Or just like, I guarantee the whole thing where it's like, because you never say shit to the Undertaker because it's his yard, and then Loki was just like, I'm not saying hi to you. I don't
I'm not
like
saying
you.
hi to
And
you.
then
You're
he was
stupid.
like, okay, fire him, please.
Yeah, I also guarantee we're going to find out why people don't like Loki, and we are going to be on Loki's side. I actually feel like I'm going to live to eat those words, as I often do on this program. We're going to be like, I have a feeling Loki.
We should
didn't
do an
anything
Undertaker
bad.
episode too, in the same Jeff Hardy way, because this was more fun, but just on how great it is that he did stay in character his whole career, because he got out and he has like only America First or I Love Beating Protesters t-shirts.
Oh my God. Let me tell you, whoever looked at Mark Calloway and was like, this guy is not to speak as himself in a microphone until we are no longer needing him professionally. Whoever thought of that is a fucking genius. Because I got news for you. If that guy was just being the Undertaker Mark Calloway during BLM 1 in 2014, 2015, holy
Can
shit.
you imagine the American badass character during George Floyd?
Oh my God! If they went make
This is
America,
the white man's
make
yard, the
America
Undertaker.
badass again. If they
Oh,
if they
oh
had
my
done
God,
Magbab, oh my God,
dude!
I gotta
All right.
tell you, make America.
Let's make
and-
suck on each other, and
Make
this is
American
stopping
great
now.
badass again. Oh my God! Do you understand how fucking? If they had been doing that character in the Rise of Donald Trump, it's a 50-50 push. He's not named as some sort of part of the cabinet. And the Secretary of the Interior is the American
Linda
badass,
McMahon's
the
job.
Undertaker.
Thank you very much for listening, guys.
Rolling.
At Wrestler Review, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Next
At
week,
the
back with
Biscuit on
Loki.
Instagram. We will be back
Bye-bye.
next week with Loki. Everyone suck me off.